All right, we are back for another episode of Under the Number. I'm joined by Victor Abiamiri, former NFL player, former Notre Dame athlete.
Absolutely. Go Irish.
Current portfolio manager at Brown Advisory. And once again, we're here in person at the PAC Accelerate conference. So, Victor, thanks so much for sitting down.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been a great past couple of days to get to meet everybody and listen and learn to all the phenomenal speakers, and just really the energy has been palpable in the building. So glad to be here. Glad to be here with you.
I had a similar question for the McCourty twins this morning, and it was about what younger guys are asking them most frequently these days. I look at someone like you, a pretty serious role at a pretty serious institution, who also had a real professional career under your belt and, you know, playing at a blue blood program. And what is it that the young guys at an event like this, or more broadly, are coming to you with most often?
Yeah, so great question. A lot of younger guys have, especially at this conference and just beyond, come to me to just ask for career advice. They've seen my journey, my path, what I've been able to do, and they've had, you know, to sort through that and navigate some of that themselves. So just coming to me for advice on, all right, well, what was your role? How'd you do this here? And more broadly, I think that's the primary thing that guys are asking me. You know, obviously, you know, in my role, I advise clients on investments and things of that nature. So if it goes to that, happy to provide advice there. But more broadly, understanding the path, what it takes to transition successfully, the ups, the downs, and the various things that you have to go through is really the most frequent question that I get asked.
And I know that your professional career, you had lots of injuries that you had to overcome and deal with time and time again. Talk about that period of your life after, you know, all of the successes and triumphs that led to that point, to then be faced with those challenges and hardships.
Absolutely.
What was going through your head? Was there a moment where you look back and you remember thinking, maybe this isn't going to last forever. I got to figure out the next chapter of life.
Yeah, no, great question. So it was very interesting. I had success at every level: high school, college, made it to the pros, relatively injury free. You know, once I got into the league, that's when the injuries started to occur. What I'm blessed about and blessed with and fortunate, I was fortunate to have a lot of good mentors, a solid academic foundation that allowed me to go to a good school, to understand, hey, I got my undergrad degree in finance from the University of Notre Dame, you know, and a great network, a great support system that allowed me to really not just view myself as just an athlete. In the summers, I did internships, right? I actually interned at my current firm, Brown Advisory, back when I was in college, right, at Notre Dame, right? So it comes full circle for me to have my professional career and go back to school, get my MBA, and really try to find, you know, a new home, a new environment where I can learn, relaunch my career. So, you know, when the injuries happened, right, it was my fourth, fifth surgery, knowing that my time in the NFL was coming to an end, you go through a very difficult time, man. There were some dark days, right? It's hard. You're so used to having success at every level, and then all of a sudden have that almost taken away from you in a certain sense. When you put in the time to eat right, to exercise, work out, make sure I was in the best shape of my life when I got injured for that last and final time, you start to ask yourself the questions, this isn't fair, life isn't fair. But, you know, you have to push through, you have to go through it. Life is full of unexpected challenges that you have to overcome. And I learned a lot about myself of, hey, you got this. You've done a lot of different things. This is just the next chapter in a very, very long story. And there's been countless times along the way that I've encountered those kind of challenges. And I very oftentimes lean on those transitional period of years of like, hey, you got yourself out of a very difficult time, and there are various challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis that, you know, I lean and leverage that experience as something that's going to help shape the person that I am today and who I'm going to be into the future.
We hear this focus, determination, perseverance, and all of this, and you came up through some pretty incredible institutions, Notre Dame being one, Gilman being one, in high school, one of the more
Done your research.
one of the more
Great
elite,
job. Go Hounds.
one of the more elite institutions really in the country.
Yes.
I had a couple of college teammates who came out of there. But even before that, tell me about how you were raised. Like, was this discipline and focus just instilled in you by your parents, by siblings? I don't know if you had any, but like what, talk about that.
Great question. So my parents are immigrants to this country from Nigeria back in the late 70s. So they came to this country with nothing, just suitcases in their hands, and really just dreamed of providing and creating opportunity for myself and my two older brothers. I have two older brothers. They all had successful collegiate careers playing football at University of Maryland and are successful professionals today. That's where it was instilled at a very early age, right? There, my parents would always say there are millions, billions of people on the planet that would switch places with you in a heartbeat. So you better not, sulk or feel sorry for yourself about the opportunities that are presented in front of you, or whatever you encounter, right? So having that ingrained in you or in me and my older brothers at a very early age was very, formative in how I perceived challenges in life, in business, in the day-to-day, personally and professionally. My mom's a nurse. My uncle's a doctor. We've got a lot of folks in the medical field in our family. So my parents were like, all right, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer. That's the immigrant mentality. I remember when I told my parents I was going to major in finance from Notre Dame. They were like, really? You were my last opportunity to have a doctor in the family. So sorry.
What a letdown.
Imagine that. But really, that really set the tone for myself and my brothers of, you hit the books first. There's the student in the word student athlete really means something. We couldn't play sports unless we got good grades, straight A's, etc. And I really appreciate those, experiences, because I really lean on that when the lights turned off, when you got to hang them up, right? It allowed me to say, hey, you did very well in school. You got this. So that background, helped me really think through myself, not just as a football player. To my parents, football was soccer. They're like, when they saw us practicing the first training camp, they're like, what the hell are you guys doing, slamming into each other? They thought it was soccer. So, lo and behold, myself and my older brothers, we all got college scholarships. So I think they were okay with it after the fact.
Well, I've heard a lot of anecdotes from people about disciplinarian Nigerian parents.
Yes,
At
sir.
risk of asking an ignorant question,
No.
Why are Nigerians so big on work ethic and discipline, and why are they so high? Like, there's just such a great
culture,
achievement culture. Tell me about the culture.
Yeah, I don't know where it started. It just is. There's a sense of pride in, we did an exercise at the one of the sessions yesterday about core values, right? Like defining what your core values are as an individual. I would say, the core values of, the Nigerian culture, faith is important, right? Being hardworking, and achievement, right? I think that's just an important thing. That's part of the culture, and that's been instilled in us from the very beginning. I mean, look, time is a limited resource, right? You're only on this earth for a short period of time. Why not do the best that you can to maximize what you can be and the opportunities you have that you can create for yourself and for others around you and for your family? That's just kind of my ethos, how I was brought up and raised. And to me, I think that's, something that will never change.
Shifting gears a little bit, kind of back to where we were a few questions ago. You mentioned studying finance at Notre Dame. I talked to Ty Montgomery on the podcast, who's also involved with PAC in some form.
Yeah.
Obviously played at Stanford and had a long career in the NFL. I asked him, what was your own personal finance acumen while you were playing and while you were making all this money? And he said, I'm so glad you asked. People do not talk about this. Yep. He said, number one, outside of the top people, people overestimate how much cash athletes actually have because
Right.
it's so public. And there's a lot of expenses that come with that ecosystem in that world.
Yep.
He said, look, I went to Stanford. He went to St. Mark's in Dallas. He's
Yeah.
super, super educated and
Yeah.
so many resources. And he's like, I look back at it and candidly, I had no idea how to manage my money.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Was that
Yeah.
the case for you? What is it that you see dealing with these athletes?
Right. So great questions. Right. For me, so my finance degree in college, right? It's a lot of philosophical use cases, right?
Econ
Formulas,
classes.
right? Like supply and demand, all the things. What was a helpful complement to that was my internship experience with alongside my classwork, right? So I interned at my current firm right now, back in college. So I was able to see use case, real life applications of, okay, here is what people are doing to invest, and here's how they're investing early on, right? So having that exposure to, all right, well, these are the various asset classes that people do and invest in. You want to know and be an owner in businesses over a long-term time horizon. It's better to start young and early so you have time in the markets to compound. Those are fundamental lessons that, we don't necessarily teach that much in our schools from a financial literacy perspective, but to have that exposure early on to see, all right, this is how people invest. This is what people are doing. I remember a specific project that I worked on as an intern. There was a woman that used to go to a kindergarten class and read to the students once a week. And it was one of her goals that once those kindergartners got to college, that she would be able to pay or support some of their college education. So I remember running a modeling project to project, okay, here's how this woman would be able to pay for the college education of all these students. Here's how many students there were. Here's how much she would want to invest. Here are different scenarios, conservative, moderate, and aggressive. And here's what that could look like over a 18-year period or 15-year period, right? So I remember that vividly of an exercise of, okay, you have a goal, create a plan, come up with a roadmap, and here's how you get there. Who knows what the outcome would have been, but the actual process of here's the approach that impacted me, right? So when I think about and I talk to other guys, right, it's understanding, hey, like invest early. You're in a position young where you are able to get, paid higher relative to your peers.
Way higher.
Way higher than your peers.
I mean, when the league minimum is where it is.
Exactly, right?
If you can make a roster, it's way higher than your peers.
1,000%. But then also, and I was one of them, right? Like I didn't get that second deal, multi-year contract. So you've got to figure out, okay, how do you become smart with that money that you invest, and understanding time horizon, budgeting, spending, expenses, all the things, taxes, right? So there's a lot that went into it that I was able to supplement, to your original question, my classwork with my internship experience, and then just real life experience of, okay, I understand conceptually, the thought process and the frameworks of investing. So you pay more attention. You're aware of, once you do have those sums of money, the processes and frameworks that you have to put in place to be able to do that for yourself.
So where you are now at Brown Advisory, how much money is under that roof?
So we're at about $175 billion of assets under management at the firm, over 20 offices across the globe. So Baltimore's the largest office, about 450 colleagues there. We're building something. So it's been a great place to be. What I like about the firm, I know you didn't ask this, but as I think about the transition, it was important to me. What attracted me to Brown Advisory, one, obviously I interned there, but two, retiring out of the league, I knew it was important to me to find a environment for me to be successful, right? To match what I wanted to do with what I was interested in working in a team-oriented culture that's collaborative was huge. And the fact that the firm is colleague owned, where every colleague has equity in the firm, creates an environment where everyone acts like an owner.
Yeah.
There's an inherent sense of
Funny how that happens.
ownership, accountability,
Yeah.
and in results, which to me, as closely mimics a team, a locker room setting as much. Now it's not exact, there's some nuances and differences, but for me, I think from a cultural standpoint, that's what I was looking for, which is why I've been able to stay there and create a career there for the past 13 years.
You guys obviously have clients whose sources of wealth are very diverse.
Yes.
Within that diverse set, though, people who make their money in sports, media, and entertainment. How do you describe that set? The people who are sitting on like real wealth, and that's their experience, that's the lens through which they see the world, how they've made their money. How do you describe that cohort?
It's a great question. Everyone's different, but if I try to think about some commonalities between that cohort, I would say, they tend to be team-oriented, risk takers. I think that's a element of it. A lot
Right.
of, you've seen sports as an asset class, a lot of investment in private markets where it's a more nascent, field
Right.
within having a place in an investment portfolio. So I would say, more, folks are a little bit more on the entrepreneurial side, in terms of really finding various investment opportunities to create wealth in the space, or they've created their wealth elsewhere and then have diversified out of kind of maybe where they originally created their wealth to diversify into a passion area, which is sports, right? It can be all encompassing, all uniting. There's a group, including myself at the firm, that's really leaning into what we're calling our sports advisory practice, where we've got a number of folks within our network that either are current or former professional athletes themselves, or really tied to the professional sports field, that we've put together a targeted effort to really think through what kind of investment opportunities that we have on our platform, or just having the opportunity to tell the brand advisory story to a different subset of clients that we may not otherwise have had a broader role within that sports ecosystem.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Question on people who influenced you on your way up when you were still playing ball. Who's the top of mind answer for the single coach that stands out as the most impactful for you?
Biff Poggi. So Biff Poggi was my high school football coach. He is independently wealthy, right? So I remember actually before I interned at Brown in college, I interned for him in high school. I'll never forget. I spent a couple summers at his family office and did some, aside from getting papers from the printer and keeping the coffee warm.
Yeah.
He put me on a couple research projects of individual stocks. So I remember Coca-Cola, Intel, and Microsoft were the three stocks that did research for him in the family office when I was in high school. So the understanding of, okay, what is a business? How does it run? And understanding, right, like the various, defensible moats, and then to understand how to talk about a business and owning a business, that was instilled in high school. And supplementing that with that being your high school coach to say, hey, all right, we're going to coach you on the field and we're going to play football, but no. We're going to teach you about the game of life and about business off the field as well. By and large, I think that it comes to mind as one of the biggest influences for me, both personally and professionally, outside of, right, what he was able to, the environment he was able to create on the football field and in business, just the life lessons of, being a good man, being a good father, being a good husband, right? Being a good servant of others, right? So I've taken that servant leadership mentality, and that's translated well into everything I do, right? So working with clients, right? How do I find common ground with you to be a partner, to be a collaborator, so we can, right, really create something together, right? I think I find so much purpose and energy in, service, in working a lot alongside both our colleagues and our clients that, I think that those lessons were very instilled at an early age. And again, I've had many that have been a part of my journey, which is even more the reason why it's important to me to pay it forward. If there's any guys, to your point earlier, that ask about for advice or things of that nature, right? I do the best. And not that I have all the answers, but I think the more that we can really share and be vulnerable and really, try to help each other out as much as I can, I think that's a beautiful thing.
How about teammates? Let's narrow this to Notre Dame and professionally. Who is someone you played alongside who, when you watch them and their process and their technique and their day-to-day discipline, is just like, that was the guy. There was nobody else like that.
Yeah. I'm going to give a couple different answers. So Notre Dame teammates, there's a couple guys that are doing very, very, very well. So off the top of my mind, Brady Quinn, who's created a very successful, career in TV commentating, doing a phenomenal job with Fox Sports. He has his own podcast. He's in the media space. Brady's done a phenomenal job. And he's really, you could always tell that from the very beginning, just using his platform as a Notre Dame quarterback to really, obviously that's creates a good path, but him as a human being, his willingness to help others, his willingness to create spaces to collaborate and to, help others. He's one that comes to mind. Another guy by the name Ryan Harris, also, he was an offensive tackle, played for won a Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos, a successful career in media as well, currently in law school. So I don't after getting his MBA and things of that nature, he's another guy that's had tremendous success off the field. I can think of another guy, John Sullivan, played in NFL center, both in the Vikings and then the Rams, also having a successful career in investment management, similar to what I do. There's a ton of guys that have been able to have their careers translate from the field into business. There's many guys that I can add to that list, but those are some of the guys that come to mind, and all really good friends of mine.
Two more questions. I've asked this more so when I've had people on the podcast who played individual sports. I think it's even more interesting in that realm. The people who you saw who were the most successful in the NFL at the absolute highest level.
Yep.
Did you find that more frequently they were the most singularly focused people, or were they maybe counterintuitively people who had many dimensions to them that allowed them to almost compartmentalize and put all their bursts of focus into football here, but also weren't such wound up balls of stress because they actually had other elements in their lives? I heard this from I asked CeCe Bellis about this, who's a big professional tennis player, and she said you saw both, but in tennis, she said it was totally the singularly focused people, which curious how that lands with football.
It's a great question. I've seen both. Like I'm thinking about a couple of different examples of some guys that were just insanely dedicated. I mean, I can like Tom Brady, right? Like you just name that, right? Of if you look at someone like that, I mean, I don't know him personally, but right, or I can name other guys in the locker room that they're singular folk, always watching film, doing everything that you dedicate completely your life to the sport and being a student of the game, taking care of your body, all the things. I've seen that work and be successful for guys. And that's something that I tried to emulate. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. But I've also seen guys that they had more balance, if you will, in different ways that have been able to do it and have had success and have been able to reach high levels of achievement and enjoy themselves on a Saturday night, right? Yeah. So I think, but even those guys were just really still insanely dedicated to their craft, good teammates, good leaders, right? Naturally gifted, maybe a little luck on their side as well. Yeah. But it's a really good question. I would say probably more often than not, it's the former of the insanely dedicated to being the best in the sport. To a lesser extent, it's the more balanced approach.
Yeah. I mean, you also have to be so genuinely obsessed that singular focus for 30 years in the case of playing from when you're a kid through a long NFL career, doesn't burn you out, and you actually are able to
1000%.
carry it through, and some guys can.
And, and that's been an interesting part of the transition for me. Like, for you to make it to the league, right? If the body shuts down, the mind and the heart doesn't, right? Yeah. So, what was interesting journey for me was to figure out how to channel that, right? Like, right, how to create the fulfillment and the grind in a different way, in a different environment that still, right, allows you to build and create and put you on a path to be successful while fulfilling that competitive edge, that itch that you have to be successful, right? You don't just lose it. You just don't turn it off, right?
Yeah.
And it's taken a while, and I'm still a lifelong work in progress to really adapt and evolve to the business that we're in. But what I realized too is, the lessons and the things that we've learned through playing highly competitive sport. You can even attest to this yourself as a quarterback, right? Like, those skills translate so well into the real world, right? So understanding your power, the power that you have to be able to, right? An example that I oftentimes give is, it's football is the ultimate accountability, right? You can be watching film and you have a bad play. You're in a room full of your peers with a red dot laser on you, rewind over and over and over again, right? And you're amongst your teammates, right? Yeah. And that's normal. Yeah, that is normal, right? And
everyone knows. Everyone in the room knows that the next clip could be them.
Exactly. Right?
It's an even playing field in that regard.
Yeah. But then it's like, you all know that, hey, we're just trying to get better, right? That's the goal. We're all trying to win, right? So you take that mentality to any kind of environment where you're working collaboratively with others, right? It's like, hey, we're in this together. We want to be able to give and receive feedback. It's good because we want to win. We want to be successful. We want to do the best for our clients. We want to grow. We want to do all the things because we're ambitious. We have we set a high bar for ourselves, and that's a good thing, right? And again, you don't just turn that off. You channel it in different ways, and I think that training that you do by being in, playing professional sports or sports at a high level really prepares you for that game of life.
No doubt. All right, in closing here, tell me about this Brown Advisory Sports Initiative.
Absolutely. So we're really excited about it, right? So there's a number of we had a current guy, professional golfer, and a number of former professional athletes like myself that have been working with clients directly over the past, myself, I've been in the business 13 years, but even more broadly, we've been working with clients for the past, 25 plus years. And we've to my earlier point, we've got a network in sports. We've been investing in the sports ecosystem for a long time. We've worked with entrepreneurs, business owners that are in the sports related fields. So we've come together to organize a targeted effort to really find ways and opportunities to tell the Brown Advisory story and be helpful to others within the sports ecosystem. PAC has been a phenomenal partner for us to really expand the network, to really be able to learn more from others more broadly, not only our internal networks, but our external networks, to help expand that. And we're really excited about the growth and the opportunity set in front of us with the sports initiative. We've got other targeted initiatives that we've done in the past that we're and currently where our focus on entrepreneurs, right? And entrepreneurs that have been building businesses from the ground up, and how to help them navigate through challenges, liquidity events, because we know them, we understand their unique needs, and we've been doing that since the beginning, right? To me, us helping individuals within the sports space is similar in a lot of ways to, right, helping a founder, a business owner that has a liquidity event early and tries to navigate that complexity and the nuances of what's really, really particularly unique to them. And again, it's it's something that we've been doing since inception of our firm, of advising clients and helping them because we understand their unique needs. And we're taking that same philosophy and approach and applying it to both athletes, entrepreneurs, business owners, team owners, executives, et cetera, right? And we're really excited about it. There's natural alignment with sports and who we are and as a society and who we are as a firm. So we're really excited about, what we can create with that initiative.
It sounds very natural. Sounds like it's obviously in the DNA with people like
Absolutely.
you, leading the charge on these things.
Absolutely.
Victor, thank you so much for the time.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Brent.